Recording. Okay, so welcome everybody, and thank you for participating in this webinar, how to launch a successful peer mediation program. So we have two presenters tonight. We have Dr. Morton and Kristen Woodward. And Cindy, would you like to say something about the agenda for tonight?
Absolutely. Greetings, everyone. Thank you so much for being on our webinar tonight. Kristen and I are very excited. Our agenda tonight, I have a PowerPoint presentation that we're going to kind of go through the steps of how to create a peer mediation program. And then we're also going to talk about our new online program that we have available for schools free of charge, thanks to a gracious grant by the JAMS Foundation. So we'll be kind of talking about that, and then at the end we'll have next steps about, well, if I want to do this, or if I know schools that want to do this, what next? And so that's our agenda for tonight. And I'll go ahead and introduce myself, since I'm going to be one of your hosts, and then I'm going to let my friend Kristen introduce herself. I'm Dr. Cynthia Morton. I am a mediator in the state of Georgia. I also run and coordinate a county-wide peer mediation program outside of Atlanta. I am a peer mediation educator, student trainer. I train adults, and also work in a school, so I'm very familiar with how peer mediation runs in school. And so now I'll turn it over to my friend Kristen.
Good evening, everyone. Kristen Woodward. I am in Fairfax, Virginia. I work with Fairfax County Public Schools. We are the 10th largest school district in the U.S. We are about 20 miles from Washington, D.C. So we have a lot of schools, a lot of diversity. I'm a conflict resolution educator, trainer, practitioner. I'm also a mediator with the state of Virginia, so I have over 12 years experience. So I come with Cindy with a lot of experience on developing programs, implementing and sustaining peer mediation programs.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, Giuseppe, are you ready to get started?
Yes, when you're ready, you can start with your presentation. You can open it and share the screen, right?
Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to talk about starting peer mediation programs, really the basics tonight. Kristen and I have already introduced ourselves to you. There's our friend Kristen. Here's me. So we're going to start with what is peer mediation, and so I'll start, and then Kristen will pick up in a moment. So we're looking to the Association for Conflict Resolution for our answers and guidance on peer mediation, because they are the experts. And so the definition that we would give peer mediation is just really a process, a neutral process where students have been trained in mediation skills and processes to mediate conflicts of other students. They're not solving their conflict for them. They are merely giving guidance and providing a safe environment for them to be able to sit down, talk about, brainstorm, and then either come up with a solution or maybe not even come up with a solution. And that's okay too. Now, I don't know if you realize it or not, but there are standards for peer mediation, and these standards can be downloaded off the internet, but we also can send them to you. And I think in this PowerPoint, we can send it to you. There is a link to the peer mediation standards, which talks about training. How many hours of training? What does a trainer have to be? How many hours of experience do they have to have? Ethics, cultural diversity, all kind of information that you would need or ever want to start a peer mediation program. They are long, and for a newbie just getting started, they can be overwhelming. So at some, even if people have questions about it, Kristen and I definitely can break down those standards, and I would suggest, and we'll talk about this later in the PowerPoint, that they really get some training, because it is a little bit overwhelming. So every peer mediation should have goals, and here are the goals of our peer mediation standards. Number one, they guide the conduct of peer mediators, what they can and cannot do, what types of cases they can take and not take. It provides information to parties in the dispute, And also it helps promote confidence in the peer mediation for the peer mediators, because they seem to know at that point what to do, what not to do, how to handle a difficult situation. And it also gives those coordinators confidence as well. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kristen so that she could talk a little bit about before you begin a program.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. So obviously you're here because you're interested in peer mediation and probably pursuing it further. There are some things you need to think about before you begin a program. The first one is, what is your plan going to look like? Developing a comprehensive, multifaceted approach. Now, this also depends on if you're inside the school community or if you're quote unquote outside as a resource and trainer coming into the school community. Those are two different aspects that you need to look at. I'm more familiar, and Cindy's the same way, of being an in-school community person. And with that, when we talk about developing comprehensive approaches, we look at our school discipline. We look at which cases are appropriate for peer mediation and which are not. We look at our positive behavior approach. It's how we educate students on the social emotional side of the house, so to speak. So there's some things you need to think about in that regard. Identifying needs. Some programs fall short of this. I've seen this happen, and then they cannot sustain themselves because they say, oh, we want to do this great program, but there's really not a need or a plan behind it. So conducting some type of needs assessment behind why the program is needed. This also gives you leverage when you go to advocate for the program and really market the program to staff and administration. This could take the form of surveys, observations, student perceptions, staff perceptions. There's a lot of different ways you can do a needs analysis. The third one, again, depends on if you're in the school community or outside, quote unquote, is enlisting support. Your administration is your number one. If you don't get buy-in from your admin and your principal, it's going to be very difficult the entire time. On the other hand, if you have buy-in from your principal and your admin and you don't have buy-in from your staff, that's another problem. So, you can't get everyone 100% all the time, but you definitely want to educate and enlist support from those folks in the community. Again, that goes along with leveraging what resources you already have. Maybe you have someone who is the PBIS or Positive Behavior Approach coordinator in the school. Number 5 is very important. This speaks to the training standards that Cindy was talking about. To develop a quality program, we'll talk about the number of minimum hours students need in order to be peer mediators, and likewise, staff who are training need to meet a certain number of hours as well. We have ethics, and one of them is competence, and we talk about do no harm in our field of mediation. And number 6, I already talked about, but parents are a huge untapped resource, so that's another place where you want to market and advocate for the program. So a coordinator, a peer mediation coordinator, as defined by the standards, is a person, or preferably a team, if you can, who have been trained according to the Association for Conflict Resolution standards, which we've been speaking about. And this individual or team coordinates the daily operations of the peer mediation program. So it is, depending on the two different models, if you have someone who's outside the school, it's very beneficial to have someone in the school at all times, because there are issues that can come up. For example, we have part-time counselors. And one part-time counselor coordinates the program at a school, but they're there part-time. And so when they leave, other issues kind of come up in the school, and there has to be a point person because there can't be a void or a gap, if you will. So that's the role of the coordinator. Okay, so you can see here, Number one, coordinators are responsible for administering and maintaining the program. So this goes along with training. Well, first, before you train your students, you have to select your students. And it's based on certain criteria outlined in the standards. So once you select your students, you're training the students, and you're maintaining the program. You're supervising mediations and debriefing with your student mediators. And then again, that depends on the level. For my elementary school counselors and coordinators, I have them stay in the room with the students because they're still learning. Middle school and high school, they can be outside the door, but they still have to be available. So all of this is involved in, supervising and debriefing the program. Number two is important. So the coordinator is not the person who's responsible for administering the school-wide discipline. They're not supposed to be the heavy, right? And it's not supposed to be, and you do this, you go to mediation, or kind of a coercion, because mediation is voluntary. So you do want to keep those two functions of discipline administering and peer mediation separate. So that's an important distinction to make. And number three, program coordinators are trained themselves. And for the integrity and the fidelity of the program, every school that has a peer mediation program needs a coordinator.
Sorry guys, my phone just rang. Okay, so and continuing our responsibilities of peer mediation coordinators, what coordinators do, they can mediate disputes by having participated in student or adult mediation training. I feel this is very important. Kristen and I are both mediators. I feel like if I did not have that experience, then if I tried to help, if their mediation went wrong, I don't know what I'm doing. So again, as Kristen was referring to the fidelity of the program and the integrity of the program, that is a really important thing. However, we know we can't govern it. We can't mandate that people have this, but it does help tremendously. So as you're thinking about starting a peer mediation program, and we'll talk about next steps for that as well, maybe think about that. Again, upholding those recommended standards, very important for a good program, for a program that has fidelity. And also committing in the program creation support. Sometimes you walk in the door and there's already one that's established. That kind of happened to me, and I had to take it apart and I had to put it into a new form where I felt comfortable, where my role was embraced and where I had some control. So you might can do that, and then you might not be able to do that. It just depends on your administration. Another thing that a coordinator does is they actually do the scheduling. They schedule time for trainings. They have students go out and do the intake, and intake is where a student finds out, well, what is this conflict about? And they meet with each student, and they get a little bit of background information so that when they come to the mediation, everyone kind of knows what mediation is, what the problem's been, what's been done before. So those things are very important. And they also schedule the mediation and the debriefing. When mediators get together and talk about what went well and maybe what didn't go so well. A couple other coordinator responsibilities, just making sure that they have the support of the faculty, the support of the administration, that parents know that mediation is available. Now, not everyone's going to be on board. I'm sorry, I wish they were, but this is real life. So you're going to have about 20% naysayers and 80% like, this is great. Advocate for the benefits of the program. Really, have the kids show the benefits. Get the kids out in the school, and when they're not mediating, get them out and doing leadership type activities, doing campaigns like domestic violence, dating violence awareness, bullying awareness, and then just other things where they can really put themselves out there in a good light. Articulate the goals of the program to your stakeholders. That's important. Also demonstrating sensitivity to bias awareness, cultural diversity, and prejudice reduction. That's important that our students are able to do that, especially as they're going to be mediators, because they have to be neutral. They have to be aware of their biases. And we teach those students to do that, but we also have to be aware of that as coordinators. Number 12, establish new or maintain current policies, procedures, and forms. We're always updating our forms. We're always trying to stay abreast of the newest information, the newest training. So we always have to train our students in advanced conflict resolution skills as well. Okay, last slide on the responsibilities of the coordinator. We have to maintain records. That's important, and those records need to be locked up in a place that they're safe. Sometimes we might need those records, so it's good to keep them, and we need them for evaluation. We need that for our data so that we can show that our mediation program is making a difference. We recruit and select students. I usually do that in the spring for the next fall. Again, we handle intake and case management. We are the promoters of the mediation program. And we also ensure that the needs assessment is conducted, as Kristen had talked about at the very beginning of our presentation. Okay, Kristen, are you up? Or is it me? Okay.
So there, as you know probably, there are several theoretical models for mediation and conflict resolution. So the standards, the ACR standards, suggest that a program choose which type of model that you are going to train your students in for mediation. So these models, we broke them up into kind of 3 categories. On the left-hand side, you can look at solution-focused. This could be a problem-solving model, and there are continuums of problem-solving, that do focus on the relationship aspect. In the school and the staff I train, and they train students, and I train students as well, we use the facilitative problem-solving model. And we're, Cindy and I, we're on the same page. Our students do the same model. Then you can move over to, in the middle column, says relationship focused. This kind of gets away from a solution focused driven to more about what's the relationship, what happened, what's the harm, what's the impact, really a social justice, more of a narrative style of what the person is coming with their truth, and also transformative. On the right-hand column, peer mediation can also be a part of a restorative justice or victim offender mediation program. And this kind of goes back into the relationship focus, but more along the lines of when there's a power imbalance and harm has been done, how does one repair the harm, and how do they move forward from there, and how does the community, the school community, support those individuals moving forward? So those are kind of 3 broad categories. So the structure of the program, the one that I see most common is the cadre model, and this is where a select group of students are trained as mediators. So as Cindy said, you do your applications in the spring for the following year, select your students. When school starts, begin training them in advanced communication skills. I always say start small. If you have 5 to 10, to start small, and then grow from there. Also because you don't know how many mediations you're going to get. What you don't want to have happen is train 30 peer mediators and then not have any mediations. So start small is the key. Whole school or classroom model, I've also seen this done where a coordinator has taken an entire grade at the elementary school level and taught all of the students conflict resolution skills and the peer mediation process. And she also has a cadre model, so it's really kind of 2 models. She's teaching the whole school, and then she also has an elevated group of students who are the peer mediators, and that's the combination that she has. Let's see. So for scheduling, there is most frequently, I've seen both, so mediators on call and scheduled hours. Mediators on call is where the coordinator gets the students' schedules. And what I would do is I always would talk to the students and see which class periods they think they could be available if they needed to mediate. If a student has problem in science, I want the student telling me that because I'm not going to pull the student out of science. Also, being very aware, obviously, of guarding instruction time and not taking away, eating into the academic time. So figuring out your mediator schedule, and then you have your disputants, and you have to figure out their schedule as well. And so, you know, talking to them, again, figuring out, and this goes along with communicating with teachers as well. And the more teachers know about the program and can see the benefits, like Cindy was saying, they're more apt to let their students go, because the students aren't concentrating anyway in that class. They're upset. So some teachers are more giving and others take a little encouragement, if you will. Scheduled hours. I've also seen this where every Friday during lunch, I have a group of students who meet, and if they have a mediation, they have a mediation. If not, they do role plays and continue training. So it really depends on the school and the time of the coordinator, which model you use. Playground model, also where peer mediators are on duty during recess of the playground time. I even had one school had their peer mediators wore t-shirts to identify them. And students could go up to them and they could talk to them and see if they could, if the case was mediatable even, you know, kind of coaching a little bit. There's also another option I've had schools do, and that's lunchtime, where the students have set up tables like on the stage of the cafeteria, advertising for peer mediation, and students would come up to them and the counselor would be there. It's smart to always have a staff person there, especially if it's elementary level, because you want that supervision. But those are, you know, you can do a combination of those models.
Absolutely. And Kristen, I'll just piggyback on that. I actually have a class. So during that class time, I always have kids available. So when the assistant principal brings the kids down and he says, do you want to do peer mediation? Then we're ready to go. So we have done that before, especially in like high emotional situations where the kids are like, yeah, we want to get this over right now. So that's just something else that I thought I would add.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about types of disputes, because I think that's important that we know the types of disputes that can be mediated and what should not. Inappropriate for mediation is your misunderstandings. Like two kids are working on a project and one kid didn't know they were working on this subject, the other kid did, and then at the end they both get a bad grade and they're really upset with one another. That's a great case for mediation. Rumors and gossip, where there's a rumor going around, we get down to the bottom of something. We do this with social media a lot. When there's something going on with social media, we try to pull kids in early to keep it from escalating. Relationship issues, sometimes friends, sometimes boyfriend and girlfriend, I've done that. And interpersonal, intergroup, or institutional disagreements where there might be a policy that was broken, or there might be you know, a group of girls, and there are two girls that are just not getting along within a group and it's just spreading. Those are things that are great to mediate. But there's some things that are not. Anything involving race, religion, sexual orientation, gender, personal beliefs, property issues, where there's something that's been taken with a money value on it, vandalism of property, and of course drugs, weapons, sexual harassment, and bullying. We just try to stay away from those. And we try to train our students early enough how to identify these things and what do you do at that point. Now, Kristen alluded to the fact that there is a length of time of training for students. And for our elementary and middle school students, the Association for Conflict Resolution states that we should have 12 to 18 hours of training. And if they're high school students, 15 to 20 hours of training. Sometimes it's hard to get in. There's several ways you can do that. You could do I do a Friday, Saturday training. Sometimes some people break it up over a period of time. We are also working, and we'll talk more about this, but we're working on some conflict basic modules with our online peer mediation platform that we'll talk about in a little bit that might help with that training. So it's just important that the students get those hours that they need. Of course, ethics is always preached in our peer mediation. Self-determination, that everyone makes their own determination if I'm coming to mediation. We're not forced by administration. We're not forced by mediators. If a student says, I'm not doing it, then we're like, oh, that's fine. This is your choice. The mediators are impartial. They don't take sides. I've had a situation where a student said, well, you know, we were in band one time together and, you know, we were kind of friends, so I really don't feel comfortable mediating this because I might be partial to this person. So I really try to show the kids why that's important. Conflicts of interest, you know, they're in class with this person. This person might be a relative. So those things we need to share with students. Our mediators need to be competent. If my mediators have not practiced, if they did not follow through on their training, they don't mediate. And I tell them this at the very beginning. So they have to have some kind of buy-in. And of course, confidentiality, which I believe we're going to talk about confidentiality more in a moment, what can be kept secret, what can't be kept secret. So that is important that we share that with students as well. Okay. Last slide is evaluation. Evaluation is ongoing. At the end of the year, I take all my mediation minutes and agreements and my logs, and then I come up with a report that I give to my administration at the end of the year to show them how many cases we had, how many were solved, how many were not solved, who were the students involved, what were some of the issues. And that way, they know kind of what's going on that has not been reported to them as far as discipline. So here's some of the things that we report at the very end of the year. Cases that were mediated, agreements, were they kept? Where did the referrals come from? Are they coming from specific teachers, administrators, parents, other students? Did we meet our goals? What are the demographics of both mediators and disputants? And then just how satisfied are people with the mediation? So these are just some things that we try to cover at the very end of the year. And now we're going to shift gears just a minute, and we're going to talk a little bit about our online peer mediation project. And I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I'm going to let Giuseppe kind of speak a little bit about our project. So Giuseppe, I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, hold on a second. Let me open this and let me share the screen. Okay, so this presentation is to talk briefly about our online peer mediation platform, and is a project which is led by a number of people. We already met two of our distinguished team members, Cindy and Kristen. We also have Alexandria and Karen DeVogt, Judy Tyndall, and they're all experts in peer mediation. We also have someone like me who has an experience in online mediation. And last but not least, we have Jay Edwards, who is an expert in online technology. This program, as Cindy already said, is funded by the James Foundation, is currently managed by the National Association of Peer Program Professionals, and last year was managed by the Association for Conflict Resolution, Training, Education, and Research section. In short, we have 4 goals. Goal number 1 is to make available online as many resources as possible on peer mediation to anybody who is interested in peer mediation, students or schools, ADR organizations, and so on. And these resources mean useful links, research, best practices, standards, curriculum, media, and so on. The second goal is a goal on which Cindy, Kristen, and Karen are working on, is an online training in basic peer mediation skills, which means that we want to show how schools can teach students basic peer mediation skills online. Goal number 3 is an online peer mediation skills development, which means that we want to teach schools how the students can practice their peer mediation skills by participating in online simulations under the direct supervision of their peer mediation trainer and coordinator. Here is an example of a simulation. It's a short video, it's a 1-minute video, so you have an idea of how they look like.
Good evening, guys. My name is Jada, and we're going to be doing a mediation today.
And hi, my name is Derek Williamson, and I'll be on the mediation today too.
I understand this is the first time for both of you all, so I'm going to go ahead and explain a few things to you. First and foremost, what a mediation is. We are
impressed last week, and I am equally impressed this week. You guys are clearly very seasoned and comfortable doing this, and jumping into the online forum, which adds sort of a different element. You guys seem.
So you have seen how our simulations look like. Each simulation consists of 4 components: the peer mediation simulation, a debriefing session with the students, a trainer and coordinator, video recording, so the students can watch themselves. They can observe their body language. They can relate to what they see on the video, to what was discussed during the debriefing session. And these video recordings can also become very useful material during the classroom training on peer mediation. And finally, we also offer students the opportunity to give their coordinator or trainer their feedback, what they learned, what they liked during the simulations. Are there ways to improve the simulations? So they can fill out an online survey at the end of each simulation. Now, as a part of our program, we offer a 3-hour free online training to schools who are interested to help their students practice their skills online. And this training consists of a 1-hour introduction and demo with the peer mediator trainer, coordinator, and the students. Next, a 1-hour hands-on training, this time only for the peer mediation trainer and coordinator. Is more a technical training. So what they need to do to make everything work. And finally, we provide a 1-hour assistance during the first online peer mediation simulation, just to make sure that everything works fine. Goal number 4 is called Online Peer Mediation Services, which means that we want to show how schools across the United States, or in Canada for that matter, that have peer mediation experience can deliver online peer mediation services to other schools across the country that don't have a peer mediation program. As you know, whenever you deal with an online environment, you need to take into consideration the students' safety. So I'd like to point out that no member of our team has any contact with students. All the students' activities are carried out under the direct supervision of their peer mediation trainer and coordinator. And last, I'd like to talk about the opportunity to work with us as partners. So we are seeking qualified trainers and mediation centers who are experienced in peer mediation training for middle and high schools. And this is how we see that our partnership can work. So starting from the left, it's us, Online Peer Mediation Platform, peer mediation trainers, and schools. So to begin with, we will provide the peer mediation trainers training in online. So they know how to set up, how to run, and to video record simulations. So from that point on, they can apply what they learned during our training and run online peer mediation simulations for the benefit of the schools they're already working with. Next, we would like to get some feedback about the school's experience, what they liked about simulations, how it worked out. So from the trainers, we would like to receive some case studies, lessons learned, and best practice and so on. And finally, what we will do is to make all this material, all this information available on our website as resources for the worldwide peer mediation community. And this, in a nutshell, is how our online peer mediation platform works. So, Cindy, do you have anything else, or can we open up the Q&A session in case someone has any questions?
I think that's good. Kristen, do we have anything else that we want to share before we move on to next steps?
Hold on, I had a question actually. Now that I think, yeah, Cynthia and Kristen, if a school is interested in launching a peer mediation program, so they are interested in a formal training in a classroom, who should I ask?
Well, that's a great question. Of course, Kristen and I know lots and lots of trainers across the United States, so they definitely can send us an email and we can hook them up with someone local. We do have people that are offering classes over the summer, and so we may be able to share some of that information with those people who are interested. So we definitely can get them information so that they know the right person to talk to. And
the easiest way to get in touch with you is through our website, right? Online, yes. peermediationonline.org.
Yes, we have a email address on that website, and that email goes right to us.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ray, Genevieve, do you have any questions about what you heard?
Oh, we have one.
We have a message from Sarah. Yes, I'm interested in training. Okay. All right. So, Sarah, if you can send us an email, so go to our website. Actually, let me show it so that you see what our website looks like. Okay. Hold on a second. So, peermediationonline.org is the website. Okay, so this is a website, and here's the link when it says contact us. Okay, so all you do is put your name here, email, school, and so on. Send message, and once we receive your message, we will respond to it. All right. So, Ray, any question? Sorry, Cynthia, I cut you off.
Please, Ray, go ahead.
My question, it's less a question and more a comment. I've learned a couple of things in the session here that I didn't know that are going to be important for the article I want to write about this. One is that you're looking for people who are mediators who want to get training to become online mediators. I didn't know that. I thought you had a cadre of mediators already and maybe even had enough mediators. So it's good to know that you're looking for more people to join that team. And also that I think that, as Cynthia was saying, being able to connect schools with local trainers, so you can help them find somebody in their community who might be able to help them get a peer mediation started. That's really helpful because a lot of schools wouldn't have contact with someone like that either because they're professional mediators or they're involved in some other kind of work. So I'm glad to see that. And the third thing is, partly based on the number of people who are in on this call, I'd caution you to not get discouraged about small numbers to begin with. It takes a while for something like this to filter through communities and for word of mouth to get spread around. And that brings me to my question is to what can we do, at least what can I do, to help you get the word out about this program so that more people can learn about it and maybe start to see a role they can play in it, and particularly a role that their students in their schools can play. So what steps can we take? Is that part of your presentation?
Well, can I answer the question? As you know, we are video recording this webinar, and before we started, we had 14 participants who had signed up from the United States, Canada, and Europe. and you and everybody else will receive the video recording of this session.
Oh, great.
Which you are welcome to share with any school and any organization that might be interested in whatever we talked about today. So we think that rather than sharing a document, sharing a video is a much easier and more effective way of spreading the word. And also to participants like you, Ray, we also send out an online survey because we think that we are imperfect and therefore there's always something new to learn, and we really appreciate it, your feedback. So next time when we run our third webinar, we will be able to learn from all of this. Does that answer your question, Ray?
It does. Good, thanks. That's going to be very helpful.
Okay, now, if I may make another comment. One thing that I forgot to mention during my presentation is that this online technology allows not only schools to help their students practice their peer mediation skills online, but they can also have different students from different schools learning from one another. So you could have one school in New York and one school in British Columbia, right? And the students will be able to learn from one another, especially when they've been trained differently. So whatever method they learned, okay, is a bit different than the method of the other school. So it's really an excellent way of keep learning and to make sure that the students are as well equipped as possible when they mediate real cases. Because during our simulations, they can run the toughest cases.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, and also I think it's also beneficial for those coordinators that you can join a simulation and watch and learn. And you can take those simulations, and if it's okay with that coordinator at that school who's running that simulation, to train your students about, okay, let's look at this simulation. What went well? What didn't go well? What would you do differently? What would you do the same? I think that using those real-life simulations or pseudo-life simulations are very helpful. So, and we have been talking about as a team, Ray, just and everybody, so that you know, we're expanding always our online peer mediation platform to include other modalities. The modules that we're creating that you can use in your training, and then other things. Well, what do you do with kids that don't have the opportunity to mediate because nobody really is referring mediations? So we're always thinking about expanding. So we really love for people just to watch us and reach out to us, and we'd love to help you.
Great. All right. Any more questions? Sarah, do you have any questions? No? Okay.
I did have one more question.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. It's kind of directed to Kristen, partly because I know how big the Fairfax County school system is. And you're all focused on schools right now, which seems perfectly reasonable, but wondering if Fairfax has expanded into community organizations like the YWCA, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, places where kids go, they're just as likely to possibly have disputes and be in need of or interested in peer mediation. So I'm wondering, is there a long-term plan, or at least an extended plan, to take this beyond the school-based peer mediation and take it more into the community?
I think that's a great point. That's something that I have not necessarily thought about because we are so school-focused. We do have several community mediation centers that we work with, but what you're talking about, I think, is broader than that. It's looking at after-school programs, recreation programs where students have conflict, and I think that's a great idea that we could possibly look at.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So, and thank you very much for your feedback and suggestions. So I'm going to produce the video in the next couple hours. I'm going to send you the video recording, and I will invite you to share the video with anybody else who you think might be interested in what we discussed today. And we'll look if you need more information, just go to our website, peermediationonline.org, go to the Contact Us page, and one or more of us will be willing to answer your questions. All right? Thank you very much then.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.